The slap cracked louder than the seatbelt sign. Gasps scattered like turbulence through the cabin. Tray tables rattled. A baby stopped crying. For half a second, the airplane felt like it tilted, just slightly, as if the sky itself couldn't believe what had just happened. "Don't you ever raise your voice at me," Claire hissed, her hand still frozen midair. Her perfectly polished fingers trembled as though surprised by their own violence. Her name tag glinted beneath the overhead light. Claire M. The black man in 14C didn't flinch, didn't speak, didn't even blink. He simply looked at her, his chest rising slow, controlled, like a man who'd trained his entire life not to react. "Ma'am," he said, voice low, calm, razor sharp. "You're going to want to step back." Now, behind them, a phone clicked into recording mode. Someone whispered, "Did she just slap him?" A tray slammed shut. The woman in 14B pressed herself flat against the window, her eyes wide, unsure whether she was more scared of the man who'd been slapped or the woman who'd done it. Claire exhaled hard, like she'd just realized what she'd done. "You threatened a passenger," she snapped, louder now, letting it carry. "I'm required to respond. Don't make this harder." "I didn't threaten anyone," he replied. His hazel eyes locked on hers, measured, unshaken. "You didn't even ask what happened." "I don't need to ask," she shot back. "You were raising your voice." She was crying. He slowly turned toward the trembling young woman in 13C, whose mascara-streaked face ducked beneath the brim of her hoodie. She didn't look up. She didn't say a word. "I was calming her down," he said quietly. "She said she was afraid someone was following her." Claire faltered just slightly, but her training kicked in fast. "Then let security sort it when we land. You don't get to play hero up here." "I'm not playing anything." He reached slowly, carefully, like a man who knew what people expected him to do wrong, and pulled a small black wallet from his coat. He held it up, silent, letting the badge inside gleam in the sterile cabin light. "FBI." The rows fell silent. Claire's face drained. Passengers leaned in. Phones caught it all. Somewhere near the back, someone muttered, "Oh, hell no." Marcus lowered the badge. "You just compromised a federal operation at 36,000 feet, he said evenly. Claire blinked. Her mouth parted. And then, somewhere up front, the cockpit door clicked. Locked. The cabin air turned thick, heavier than pressurized oxygen. Claire stepped back, as if the badge itself burned her fingers. Passengers were no longer pretending not to stare. Some held their phones higher. Others glanced toward the front, toward the cockpit, toward anyone who might take control of this strange unraveling. But control had already left the plane. "I need to speak with Captain," Claire muttered, trying to regain her voice, but it wavered. She turned abruptly and walked up the aisle, her polished flats scuffing against the floor. Her hands were shaking. She reached for the intercom but stopped, hesitating, and instead knocked twice on the cockpit door. No answer. Marcus watched her the whole time, expression unreadable. His badge was gone now, tucked away, but its weight lingered in the silence. He looked toward the girl in 13C again. She still wouldn't look up. "Are you okay?" he asked her, softer this time. No answer. She clutched her armrest with both hands, knuckles white. Fear or guilt, it was hard to tell which. From behind, a voice spoke, low and uncertain. "Excuse me, Agent." Rosa Delgado in 16A leaned out into the aisle. "Is there something we should know?" Marcus didn't answer right away. Instead, he scanned the faces watching him. Rows of strangers, some curious, some hostile, some just scared to be part of something they didn't understand. He took a breath. "There's someone on this flight," he said quietly. "Who isn't who they say they are." Gasps again. This time less dramatic, more confused. Claire had reached the phone at the galley. She was whispering urgently, turning her back so the passengers couldn't see her face. The captain still hadn't come out. A man near the back stood up suddenly, a bulky guy in a hoodie. "Yo, I just want to get to LA without this FBI drama." "All right." Can we just fly and handle this on the ground? Marcus didn't even look at him. That was a plan, he said, eyes still fixed ahead, until someone slapped a federal agent mid-operation. The words hit harder than the slap itself. People shifted in their seats. Someone said, "What kind of operation?" Another, "Is there a bomb?" The man in the hoodie sat down slowly. Claire turned around then, pale and stiff. "The captain's aware," she announced loud and official. "He's asked everyone to remain calm until we land." "Then tell him to open the cockpit," Marcus replied, still quiet. She froze. "Excuse me?" He knocked. No answer. "That's not procedure." Marcus stepped into the aisle now, his voice never rising, but his presence shifting, bigger, more deliberate. "You said he's aware, but you didn't talk to him, did you?" Claire's eyes darted to the locked door. "He's flying the plane." Marcus moved closer, slow like water rising. "Is he?" The whisper spread like a ripple. The captain wasn't answering. The cockpit was locked. Nobody had heard his voice since the slap. One of the other flight attendants, a younger man, emerged from the back alley, whispering urgently to Claire. Her face drained even more. Marcus saw it instantly. "What did he say?" Claire didn't respond. "What did he say?" She looked at him, finally. "We can't reach the cockpit. The comms aren't working." That's when the plane hit a sharp drop, only a few seconds, but enough to throw a drink off a tray and pull a scream from somewhere near row 22. Marcus grabbed the seat back, stabilizing. "That wasn't turbulence," he said. "Sir, please," Claire began. "I need into that cockpit now." "No." Claire stepped between him and the door. "You are not in charge here." "Yes, I am," he said, calm as ice. "Because whoever's in that cockpit, it's not your captain." And from row 13C, the girl finally whispered something, barely audible. "He told me not to say anything." Marcus turned to her. "Who?" The girl looked up. "The man who gave me the ticket," she said, voice shaking. "He said if I said anything before landing, people would die." A sharp inhale ran through the cabin. Claire staggered back, like she'd been slapped herself. Marcus's face changed, barely, but enough. The mask cracked just slightly. He knelt by the girl's seat. "Where is he?" She pointed slowly. "First class, 2 rows ahead." And just before Marcus could move, the cockpit intercom crackled to life, and a voice that was not the captain's said 3 words. "Stay in your seats." The voice on the intercom was wrong. Too calm, too slow. Not the clipped professionalism of a seasoned pilot, and not the voice anyone recognized. The silence that followed was thick and electric. Not a single baby cried. Not a single tray clicked. Just the low hum of the engines, the fluorescent flicker overhead, and the sickening knowledge that control was no longer in the cockpit. Claire backed away from the intercom like it might bite her. Her mouth opened, then closed again. "This can't be happening," she whispered. "It is," Marcus said. He was already moving. 2 strides, 3. He stopped in front of the curtain separating coach from first. His hand hovered near his hip, where a weapon should have been. But he was unarmed. Commercial flights don't allow firearms, even for agents. His advantage was gone the second she slapped him. He turned to Claire. "You have a key to the cockpit?" "I don't," she stammered. "Only the captain and first officer." "Then pray one of them's still alive." Behind him, passengers were murmuring louder now. Panic was boiling just beneath the surface. A woman in 19D started crying. Someone in 11A pulled out a rosary. Marcus turned to the girl in 13C again. "Tell me everything," he said. "I don't remember," she whispered. He crouched lower, eye level. "Try." He said he was watching," she said. "That he'd know if I talked. He said to stay quiet, or people would start disappearing." Claire sank into the jump seat, her eyes fixed on the cockpit door like it was the edge of a cliff. Marcus straightened and pushed through the curtain. First class was nearly empty. Just 3 people. One asleep, one pretending to be, and one man staring directly at Marcus with a faint, crooked smile, like he'd been waiting for this. "Sit down," the man said softly. Marcus didn't move. "You're not in the cockpit." "No," the man agreed. "But I have friends." From behind Marcus, someone moved. A blur, a sudden click, a cold barrel pressed into Marcus's side. The younger male flight attendant, smiling, holding a pistol low, concealed. Marcus didn't even flinch. "You think this ends with you in control?" "No," the man in first class said calmly. "It ends with you listening." He gestured to an open seat across the aisle. Marcus sat. The man leaned forward. "You were supposed to sit quiet like everyone else. You were never part of the plan." "That's your mistake," Marcus replied. "I always am." The man smiled. "That badge means nothing up here." Behind Marcus, the flight attendant spoke, voice low. "We have leverage. If you try anything, she dies first." Marcus didn't have to ask who. He already knew. They meant the girl. "Why her?" he asked, stalling. "Watching. Calculating. She has something that belongs to us," the man said. "And she doesn't even know it." A ripple of horror crept through Marcus's chest. This wasn't a hijacking. It was a heist. And the cargo wasn't in the hold. It was in seat 13C. Before he could speak, the intercom came alive again. The same strange voice. "In 10 minutes, we begin our descent. Remain calm." But there was no descent. They were still cruising altitude, and Marcus could hear it in the engines. The pitch hadn't changed. The descent was a lie, and 10 minutes was a countdown. The ticking wasn't real. Not a bomb, not a timer. But the pressure, it was counting down in every breath. Marcus sat still, hands on his knees, eyes locked on the man in front of him. The air marshal, or imposter, stood just behind him with the weapon low, invisible to most of the cabin. "You're not going to make it off this plane," Marcus said, voice steady. The man in first class gave a small, cruel laugh. "Neither are you. But we don't need to. We just need what she has." And then it clicked. It wasn't a weapon. It wasn't even money. It was information. The girl, the quiet one in 13C, she didn't know what she was carrying. But they did. Marcus didn't look back. He couldn't risk tipping her off. But he felt it in his gut. Something had been passed to her. A USB. A message. Maybe even embedded in her boarding pass. These men were exploiting her innocence. He had one chance. "You think threatening a girl's life gives you power?" Marcus said louder now. "But you've already lost control. Because the second you involved innocent people, this became your end." The man's jaw tightened. "Watch your mouth." But it was too late. Other passengers were rising, slowly, cautiously. Not in revolt, just in refusal. Refusal to sit still, to be silent. And as Marcus stood slowly, hands still raised, others followed suit behind him. "I'm not the only one standing anymore," he said quietly. The man raised a hand, and the younger flight attendant moved to act. But something shifted in his face. Hesitation. His hand wavered. He glanced toward the passengers, then at the girl, and he lowered the gun. The betrayal stunned the man in first class. "What are you doing?" "I didn't sign up for this," the flight attendant muttered. "This isn't justice. It's just fear." Marcus moved then, fast and controlled. In one motion, he disarmed him, slammed him against the cabin wall, and snapped handcuffs onto the wrist. The sound rang like a bell. Claire was crying. The passengers began applauding. And in the back, the girl in 13C let out a breath she didn't realize she'd been holding. Tears streamed down her cheeks, not of terror, but release. 10 minutes passed. The plane was still in the air. But this time, the real pilot's voice returned. "Apologies for the disturbance, folks. We've resumed control. We'll be landing shortly." A wave of emotion swept the cabin. Relief, exhaustion, quiet sobs. But most of all, unity. People looked each other in the eyes again. Strangers reached for hands. And as the plane dipped toward the horizon, the sun cut through the clouds, warm and gold. Like hope, Marcus stood in the aisle, looking out over the passengers. Not victorious, just human. He turned to the girl. "You were brave." "I was scared," she whispered. He nodded. "Bravery doesn't mean you weren't scared. It means you stood up anyway." She smiled through her tears. And as they touched down, wheels screaming against the runway, Marcus looked ahead. Another flight, another mission. But this one would stay with him forever. If you ever feel like the world is spiraling or fear is louder than your voice, remember, silence can be broken. Bravery isn't loud. Sometimes it's just staying upright when the world shakes. Agent Marcus J. Reed, if this story moved you, share it with someone who needs to hear it. Like, comment, and subscribe to stay part of these powerful journeys. There's always another story waiting to be told. And sometimes it starts with a moment just like this.